All right, we're live. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I have Lowell Johnson with me again. I am so excited to have you again, Lowell.
It's good to be here. We need to pick up where we left off, clearly.
Yes, we do. We do. And I'm so excited because um, I have something to tell you. When I started my journey as a quantum hypnotist back in the day, about 6 years ago, early on, I had this client who was Moses, and Moses. Well, not when I'm going through the hypnosis piece, she's explaining how she's under the Sphinx, how she's coming down the stairs into a place that has a wall, but you can tell it's a door, and that only certain people with the right vibration can walk through this door. So the door opens for him and his brother, who's Ramses. Okay, so Ramses and Moses, right, when they were young.
Mm-hmm.
It opens up, they walk into this room, and he sees this ship with carvings around it and like hieroglyphics.
Mm-hmm.
And so this ship, when they touched it, you could see it when you touch it, and then it would disappear, and it would only be people that could see it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started reading the Emerald Tablets after talking to you and our conversation about Thoth. And in there, it talks about this ship that he put under the Sphinx. And I was like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
So because I do tarot shows to find truth. One of the questions I asked, is this real? Is this the same ship that Thoth is talking about in the tablets? And the card said, yes, absolutely, it's the same. And it also explained that he didn't really need a ship, but he needed the ship for the people that were in
Yes.
Atlantis. But if it
Yes. To
was just for
cart those
him,
that were going to Chem, they boarded the ship. It says so in the Emerald Tablets.
yes,
It was a
yes,
ship. Well,
yep,
we know what that is now, but I'm happy to hear you find a way to connect the dots, because that's the only way that us and our poor little human minds, we need a way to understand it. And some of this information, we just don't have the capacity to understand it just yet. We're
right,
getting there. And
yeah,
believe me, as we have more of these conversations, we continue to unlock more things that we've had stored away. And now it's time for us to share it. Those people that resonate the same way, I want to be careful, because I'm not saying that this needs to be blasted out to everybody else,
right.
because the majority of people aren't ready to hear this yet. And I'm not here to change anyone's mind. I'll say that again. I'm here to assist those that get it. And so there will even be things that you're going to help me get, that I get things out of these connections as well. It's always an energy exchange, always. And so I come away with more information than I went into these things with. But now that I hold this information, I have an obligation to pass it along to the people who also want to understand it. And then it's up to them not to accept it as truth. You still need to discern what I've said to you and find out whether that resonates with you. I'm not here to shove it down your throat. I respect that you're a sovereign being with free will, just like I am. And if I expect that kind of respect, you should expect it too.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. And always for people to take what resonates, and what doesn't, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's really what we're here to do, is to put out the information, and they can do with it what they want. But before we begin the connection to the Emerald Tablets, we have to, put the foundation out there, right? How did this conversation come about? How did the Thoth connection come about? So I am going to let you do that, and here, that's the idea.
Okay. This is the first time I've spoken publicly about any of this. There are a few things that have been posted up over the last couple months, but just that. There are things that have been placed in my path that led up to this. And most of you already know I had a miraculous trip to Telos. Now, what I see in retrospect, between this and what happened last summer, um, I understand that was a multidimensional visit for me. And it was the first of many I have had. I just didn't recognize them as such.
Yeah.
So I know lots of people want to just rest on my Telos story. Tell me that again. No, you don't get it. Here's what I get out of that. That the Telos story, in order for me to tell it to all of you, is like a shiny bell. I'm going to hold it up and get your attention by telling you this story, because there's actually more that you need to understand. And it wasn't about Telos or whether you're going to follow me in the same vortex that I found. It's the fact that we're all waking up to this, and we're all going to have miraculous experiences of our own. That's what we're here to prepare you for. And if you don't sense that the shift is imminent and what changes are coming aren't happening because it's happening so rapidly, look, this enlightenment for me took place over the last 2 years. 2 years. Now, it sounds like a lot of time, but it's not in the scheme of I've been on the planet for 68 of those. And something triggered, actually 4 years ago was when this whole awakening thing began for me. And then 2 years ago, Telos started. And that was the beginning of connections to things that were higher dimensionally than I was. So how did we get there? Last summer, I had taken a trip across country, and I was due back the first week in August. I was due to present at Rob Potter's Shasta conference last year, which was at the end of August instead of the first part of July. And I was due back at, you've heard me make mention to Mickey Magic. I was on my way back to his compound that first weekend in August. Prior to that, it's probably important to know that I had had a hunger before that. I had a tweak about maybe 6 months before that, and I had a real curiosity about the Emerald Tablets. It was placed in front of me, and I just dug through it. The first time I read through it, and it's not a brief document, took me a while. And when I got to the other end of it, other than the word Thoth kept popping out at me and that resonated, I couldn't understand it. It was freaking word salad to me.
Right.
So then I decided I wanted to understand it again. And this time I found a couple of digital versions that were on YouTube. You know, they're like 3.5 hours long, so you got to be dedicated if you really want to get out of it. So the next 2 times, because the first time I listened to it, same thing, word salad. Second time I read it or heard it, same thing. It's still word salad. So I just put it off to the side for a little bit. A few months before that time in August, something made me go back to it one last time. And this time when I researched it, I had found a newer, more contemporary version that our friend Jordan had drawn. And all he was trying to do, and Jordan was, if you know anything about his background, he was in a session, an astral session with Thoth, and Thoth instructed him to do this for him in a more contemporary fashion. So the way that we read it and the version that Dr. Dorial wrote long ago, it has some like heavy English language into it. Well, Jordan was instructed to make that a little more contemporary so that people like us, it would make more sense to us. And he did. When I got through Jordan's version of it, and I'm not suggesting necessarily that it was that, I know now that when I got through that, it helped me understand it. And it wasn't in final form, my comprehension of it, but I understood enough of it to understand and tell people, I think I know what this is about.
Yeah.
So now I get back to Mickey's on this Friday, and there's
this
someone waiting for me that apparently has heard my story. We're going to call her Kumu. And I had not met her, didn't know who she was before this. She's a healer. And I'll tell you a little bit more about her as the story goes along. But she and Mickey have known each other for, I want to say, maybe almost 15 years. When I had heard about her after this, and Mickey had told me, at that point, he'd known her for, 10 or 12 years, and they'd done healing things before. She has use Mickey as a source for Andaras because she understands what kind of power that they have, and she's used them to grid them all over the planet. When I got there that afternoon, Kumu was there, and she travels with an entourage. She has some students that go with her on these places. She goes all over the world and a lot of domestic things. And then there are two other colleagues that travel with her, a friend that's been close with her all the time, and another woman who's become a friend who was a psychologist. And 10 or 12 years ago had heard about Kumu and the extraordinary things that happen around her. She wanted, from a professional perspective, to see that, understand it. And so Kumu invited her to, kind of come along and archive these things. And she's been with her ever since. So that was what was there that afternoon. We're on Mickey's deck, and life plays out at Mickey's house here on the deck. So there was probably maybe a dozen people there that day. When I first got there, I went over to shake her hand and just kind of sense her energy, and I picked up on something different, but there wasn't, I couldn't put my finger on exactly what it was. So the rest of the afternoon, we sat around the table, shared stories. I really listened more than anything. And it wasn't that we were learning that much about one another, and I wasn't going to find out until after she had left that day who she was from Mickey, because I still didn't know, and there was really no opportunity for Mickey to pull me aside and say, yeah, this is probably what you need to know about her. So that didn't happen. Anyway, when it got to be toward the end of the afternoon, she had gotten up from the table. And in order to get her on the deck, you got to go around the house, and over in this corner, Mickey's got plants all over the place, amongst all the Andaras that are all over the place. And the plants are huge. The enchanted forest is behind his house. So this is how magical the place that he lives in, the Santa Cruz Mountains, is. He kind of lives on a hill. His house is up here. The Andara spirals down on the next level. It's just magic.
Yeah, you showed us the spiral, the picture of the spiral in the last video that we did. That was incredible. It's incredible.
Magic. I just heard from someone who had been in Shasta last week, stopped by Mickey's over the weekend, and he said the same thing. I can tell you, I've been to Mickey's enough, and I've seen people that have come and gone, that place can either be a magical wonderland or it can be a minefield for people that aren't ready. I saw somebody get out of their car at Mickey's house and collapse with how much energy there was, and it took about 15 or 20 minutes to bring them back around.
Wow.
That's the kind of energy for the uninitiated. If you're not prepared for this, this is what you can expect. So she got up around 5 o'clock and went over by these plants. I didn't know what she was doing until after, but she had been taking pictures behind these plants. Then she asked me to come over and to put my arms up and around this plant. And she gave me some Ely ohms that she told me to chant. And so I did it until I felt silly. And then I stopped and I turned around to look at her. Well, by that time, she was done with whatever she was doing. And we made our way into the house to kind of get out of the sunlight. Well, when we got in there, and it wasn't like earlier in the afternoon, she hadn't shown me lots of pictures she had taken on her phone of extraordinary phenomenon, apparitions that, how does this happen? Somehow she has the ability to capture these images.
So are those the images that we saw in the last video? Okay. So I'm just trying to.
The first four were those pictures of light beings in
the light beings, yes.
And then the other two were me and an engagement with a light being that appears to went in my third eye and out the back. And one last picture with that concentration of it wasn't a light beam. I don't know what to call it, but when you see in the picture, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, pointed at this part of my head. And I can tell you, I don't know if it was since that day, but since that day, when I sense I'm getting downloads, that's where it happens. There
Oh.
is, I want to call it, it's like a vibration, but it's kind of a sound. It's not a high pitched sound, so I don't know how to characterize it.
Oh, I think
But
you had said before, like it was like a hummingbird, but like a
no, that
almost
was
like
for the light beams, and we'll get to
oh,
that.
the light
But
beams.
no,
Okay,
this is
this is
something
different.
different.
Okay,
There's like it's not a pulse, it's like a high pitch that's just here almost all the time. And I can tell under certain circumstances, it gets louder. So depending on the environment I'm in, that can flare. And I still can't put my finger on what it is. All I can tell you is that I have a history now of knowing things that I don't know how I knew them. So I attest that to downloads I've been getting and cracking open my DNA.
And your psychic
and then she
gifts
left.
too.
Yes.
Your psychic gifts too are opened as
True.
well.
Oh yes. She left that day. I didn't know what any of this stuff, man. I didn't know any of it. I thought the pictures were cool, and I asked her if I could have them because after I'd seen lots of pictures earlier in the afternoon, I said, "Can I have that one?" Well, no, you can't have these. But at the end of the day, when she took those pictures of me, yeah, she sent them to me later that evening. And then I pondered what the hell that was. Now, I was going to be at Mickey's all weekend. I ran an IT business of my own for about 10 years. And so doing websites and that, second nature to me. We needed to work on Mickey's website and kind of resurrect it so it would be easier for people to buy on Doris. I had agreed to stay for the weekend and we were going to work on it. So at 10 o'clock, his girlfriend Kim and I were out in the back and we're getting ready to log in and start to work on the design. There's a call that came in a little after 10 and it's Kumu. She's coming back. Now, no one knows why, but she'll be there a little after noon. When she got there, the entourage wasn't around her. She had one student that would travel with her. She's probably the one that is her right hand. And they brought enough Chinese food to serve, I don't know, dozens of people. And there might have been like 8 or 10 of us that were there that day. No, 8, not that many. She also had, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 hard protective cases that contained something. Didn't know what they were. So after we had started to have some of this food and we were getting a little better acquainted, she started to open these cases, and in there she had artifacts.
Oh yeah, those are the pictures we saw in the last video. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, because this is a whole lot of the story we talked about last time.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we're going to pick up where we left off here shortly because Kumu is going to play a bigger role in all of this than I had any idea that what this was all about.
Yeah.
Who gets to see any of this stuff? Who gets to touch it? Who gets to take pictures of it and keep them like I got to? And who gets to use these ceremonial pipes? Because, oh, by the way, we're going to do that. She had brought some cannabis from her grandma's plantation in Hawaii. Her family's Hawaiian. And I don't know, this was 26th generation, whatever this strain was. I've been around long enough to understand what like Acapulco Gold and Maui Wowie and those really blonde things were. That's what this looked like. I hadn't seen anything like this for a while, so she had some buds. And in addition to that, she had a little round container that had some, it looked like dust to me, but it was almost copper colored. So when she got ready, these 3 ceremonial pipes that she had brought to show us, oh, we're going to use them. She brought a screen for the purpose, and I don't know when the last time these were used for anything. after this was over, I had asked her if she had taken other people on ceremonies like she did with me. She goes, oh, yeah. And I said, well, did you do this, this, and this with them too? And she said, no. I said, has anybody been through what I've been through before this? She goes, no, just you. So after we had that in the afternoon, we were just kind of kicking back. And then around 5 o'clock, she makes her way down to the Andara spiral and invites Mickey and I to come down. We sat along the side because there's a walkway along the Andara path where you can actually sit, where the grass stops. And unbeknownst to us, she was starting to take pictures. And she had reached into another dimension, and we were seeing the results of that. Now, we weren't seeing it at the time. I didn't know any of this was going on until after the fact. She had sent me the pictures she had taken that evening. She sent them that evening. I didn't see them until then. Anyway, when we were done sitting, she wanted us to stand in the middle of the spiral. And in the middle of the spiral is called the Goddess Stone. It's green and huge. It was gifted to Mickey when Lady Nellie passed away. It was the stone she had, huge. I can't have, there's no way on my screen to illustrate how big this thing was, but it anchored the center of the spiral. It was what Nellie looked at every morning out her kitchen window. And when she passed along, she gifted it to Mickey. But Mickey had also put like a 4-foot high white angel right behind it. So when people walk the spiral and you got there, you can work your intent out whatever way was suitable for you. So when Mickey and I positioned ourselves behind it, Mickey said, can you feel the angel vibrating? And when I put my hand on top of it, oh yeah, I don't know what kind of energy was moving, but it was moving. Then it looked like, I thought it was sunlight that was coming in from a space, because all of a sudden there was a bright light. Mickey's girlfriend and another friend were sitting at the end of the spiral because there's benches on those ends. I could see Kim around the edge, but whatever this was a mass, and it wasn't a beam. Because how could I see Kim around it if this was a beam? It wasn't like the light would just stop right here. It was so dense you couldn't see through it. Later, when the time came and she showed us what the pictures were, she had called in light beings again. And whatever contact they were making, it seemed as though the predominant amount of attention was being spent on me, although Mickey and I were both in this environment. And then she left again. So here I am again. I don't know what just happened. And I wasn't going to find out for a little while. And I didn't understand how to assimilate it until I finally saw the pictures. And once I get past the light beings I saw in the picture and how magnificent that was, and try and make sense of any of it, then my system was finally in a place where I could begin to assimilate it a little bit better. It wasn't until, well, I should say, when she got ready to leave that day, she was also going to be in Shasta. She was going to be there the week before the conference was going to take place, and her plan was to leave on that Saturday morning. I was going to be arriving Wednesday that week because I wanted to go to Shasta, have some me time before the conference started on Sunday. And so we agreed that during that overlap time, we'd find a place and a time to get together and connect there too. Because again, I didn't understand what any of this was about, and I'd really like someone to help me understand it. So it wasn't until really Friday when we found a common time to get together. So we had gone up to Panther Meadows, just grabbed our chairs and found a camp site and sat there. And for the next 45 minutes, she told me who she was and what her background was. She's a hybrid. Her father was a soldier back in the early 50s. And back then, when there was an awareness and clearly evidence of extraterrestrial conduct, whether it was ships the government had gotten their hands on and whatever exotic DNA material they had gotten somehow, they realized that the beings that had this inside of them had extraordinary abilities. And of course, the military was interested in leveraging that in some way. So they had asked for some volunteers who would be interested in participating in this program and find out, what this cross-pollination would result in. It wasn't until she was 5 years old that everyone began to understand she had abilities and connections to things that the rest of us did not have. And her mother didn't know about any of this until then. Then she was put into a program with other kids who apparently had gone through similar programs, and all of them were now here, and we're going to try and ascertain back in the 50s what this was and how these kids are going to grow up. So she's just about my age. She's been around for a while, and she's been around busy clearing dark energy since then. Her connection is to light beings. The light beings, after the fact, I'd asked her, who are they? Can you tell me who they are? Well, they're 6-dimensional elders that are here that represent that faction of dimensions here on Earth. They came from that place. So after 5th dimensional consciousness, that's really the last point at which humanity really needs to take form. 6th dimension, 7th dimension, you're a light being. And you're not required to have form. You can, but I don't know that anybody wants to do that anymore. I'll know more about it when I get there, but at least I know what is coming. So after she told me a little bit about herself, I had questions of my own, not the least of which was, what the hell is this about me? And, why me? And why whatever is going through with me, I really want to understand what it is. But before we began, I had already had some awareness that this was a ceremony. We had gone through a ceremony. I didn't really put all that together until after the fact. And so the first thing I said is, there's something here that's supposed to pass between us. And I want that. Whatever it is, I want that. But I got some trust issues we need to get past, because you put both Mickey and I through ceremony without our knowledge, much less our consent. And she said, well, I had to. And without going any further, intuitively, I knew that that was the correct answer. And that her authority to do whatever this was, it wasn't hers alone. That she had to have been given directions and instructions on, what to do. When I thought about that more, it occurred to me that Friday's interaction with those light beings around that plant, that was a test. Had I not met that condition, Eliza, they wouldn't have come back Saturday. There would have been no reason for her to come back Saturday, right? Mm-hmm. So somehow that interaction with me and the light beings was a green light for what was going to happen the next day. So when we got to Shasta and we're exchanging all this, we had our little discussion, and then I had questions about me, about this all was coming to a point where by now, I'm not saying I had a command of the Emerald Tablets, but I understood most of it. And every time I heard THOTH, it resonated to degrees that I can't really express. I didn't understand why that meant so much to me. So I started to do some research on who he was, aside from what we found in the tablets that told him about who he was. I was well aware that he's going to return again to assist Gaia through her consciousness. He's been here taking human form 3 times prior, and that when he left the last time, he said he would be back. I had believed for a long time that he's returning now to assist Gaia with her consciousness upgrade. And when he comes back, it's not that humanity won't benefit from that, but he's not coming for us. He's coming for her. And when he assists her, we will all benefit as a result. The idea flashed in my head that, are you being prepared to be the one that's going to hold his consciousness? That thought came into my head. And she began to explain, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. You're being evaluated as a vessel. They're looking for a pure vessel that can hold that consciousness, and you're it. So I said, so you're telling me that I'm being prepared to hold Thoth's consciousness? And without hesitation, she said, yes. You just have to believe you are. We hope you will, but that's your decision. Now, then she went on to present me with a few things. The first was these obsidian-looking rocks that she had shown me. There were 5 of them that I thought that they were obsidian. But they had flecks of almost like blue and green andara inside of them. Well, she had 5 of them. She let me keep the smallest one and whatever dust was in this plastic bag from it. But when she showed it to me, she said, yeah, I brought these back from Inner Earth. I was there on Sunday when I arrived. And of course I go, yeah, that's really cool. Now I took them to somebody, and there is a resource in Shasta. If anyone was going to know anything about this, there's a guy that's named Maziba, who has a gallery, a crystal gallery called the Crystal Matrix Gallery. It's a block off the main drag.
Yeah.
If you ever go talk to this guy, you know he's from somewhere else.
Yeah, he's different.
Connected. Yes, he's different. So when I went in to see him that day, I said, Maziba, somebody gave me these and told me they came from Middle Earth. What can you tell me? So he put them under a light. He goes, oh, you know what? These actually came from the Heart Nebula. Not quite sure how they passed through Inner Earth, but I can tell you with great certainty that's where they came from. Okay, well, let's tuck that away. Then she handed me a red vial, and she said, this is for you if you decide that you want to pursue your light journey. You're under no obligation to take it, but if you want to know more about it, this is for you. Well, inside of that vial was half white Ethereum and half light. So there was enough in there at, an 1/8 of a teaspoon a day. It was going to take me 10 days to kind of ceremony through this. But once I finished, and I wasn't finished until after she left, things just expounded. Knowledge cracked open. That evening, after she had given this to me and presented me with these options on, what I wanted to do, she invited me to a ceremony that they were going to go to. There were 3 people that were in from Miami, and they had engaged her to go through a ceremony. There's a energetic pyramid on some private property there that Kumu knows the owner, and she's been to John's property many times doing this same stuff. There is some energetic stuff that goes on John's property that is amazing, and I got to witness it for myself. So when she invited me to go along that night, I thought, I'm like the 4th wheel. There's going to be these 3 other people, and I'm invited, and I knew that she's still got students that travel with her and assistants, and so I thought I was tag along. No, you're going to be the 4th person in this 4-corner. And she had handed me an Egyptian, it was in the form of a magnet, but it had scribed
Hieroglyphs, kind of.
Yes. And I wasn't quite sure why she gave it to me, although I had a trigger with Egypt from a friend of mine who, after I met with Kumu the first time, she had told me that I carry this blue cobra energy. Well, after she left and I left Mickey's, I had stopped by, I had called our friend Kathy, who, does the same type of quantum hypnosis that you're trained to do. And I asked, is there any way you can help me? So I stopped at her place and we went into a session for about 40 minutes. I know what I got out of it. I saw this cobra just wrap itself around me and then sit perched in front of me. And I wasn't threatened by it at all. It just kind of gave me some peace. What Kathy saw, however, was she saw a sarcophagus under the Great Pyramid leaned up against a wall. That she heard someone keep saying, wake up, wake up. And then she asked, you know, why Lowell? What's Lowell doing here? And they said, well, he's a king. He's royalty. And that's what she got out of it. So after that, Kumu, a couple days later, had sent me a bunch of information on blue cobra energy. And she said, you need to understand what it is that you carry. So I started to study that and haven't really mentioned any of that yet either, because it's another tangent to go down. It's crazy enough for people to hear me say I went to Inner Earth. And then it's crazy enough for me to tell them that I've had interactions with light beings. Now I'm going to tell you that I carry blue cobra energy on top of that. I will say that I'm not the only one that carries it. I'm just aware that I do now. Kathy saw that cobra around me as well. And she said at the very end of this session, she said it looked like there was somebody that was trying to approach my heart core. And as soon as they did, this cobra came out from behind it and stopped that transaction. Well, one of those pictures, now that picture, the blue swipe at Mickey's place, made sense when they first showed me in that dimensional picture. It looked like I was holding something. And when you zoomed in on it, I thought at first it looked like a baby dinosaur. And someone whispered, it's a serpent. Well, then it was explained to me, this is Shiva rising to protect you. So now, does this make sense? How it came around to protect me in whatever realm this was in that Kathy and I were in session with? Oh my God, it was crazy. So that evening at this energetic pyramid, I sat in one corner, and my meditative journey that night was I saw myself lifting off the top of the Great Pyramid and exposing the halls of Amenti for all of humanity, including those emerald tablets that were previously prohibited.
Okay. So that's making a lot of sense. Yeah.
Okay. So Friday's over. It's almost midnight by the time we get back to the hotel that these people are staying at. And she's due to leave the next morning according to her original plans. As I was saying goodbye to everybody, she came over and said, there's one more thing I want you to participate in with us tomorrow. And so just meet us here at noon and we'll all drive together. So the next day I showed up where they were, and we made a trip just north of, it's not 89. It's the road that goes from there to Klamath Falls. And there's nothing really between here in Shasta and there. So I can see why, whatever this land that a Veterans Memorial property was set up on, yeah, it probably didn't cost them much because there's nothing out there. But on this property, there's a beautiful sculpture garden. And the sculptures, when you look at just the sculptures themselves, look like 8 or 9 foot beings. When I stood next to one, I went, this is exactly the scope and the scale of if I stood next to a Lemurian, this is what it looks like 2 heads higher than me, this is it. So when we got to the property, there were 4 cars, there were 12 of us, and I, again, think I'm a tag along. She invited me to come along. I'm going to participate somehow, but I don't know how. As soon as they get there, those 3 cars unload, and they are preparing the space for ceremony. People have taken positions, in the 4 directions to treat it with medicine. Their medicine was a combination of sage and lavender, and they're just asking whatever beings were there for us to allow ourselves entry. They were busy doing that. In the meantime, while they're scampering over getting things ready, she comes over to me And I got the back hatch of my car open. And she said, here, this is your medicine. Hands me another little brown piece of paper. And inside of there is some more Anana stuff. I want you to take your chair and I want you to go sit over there by that sculpture until I come for you. So I went and sat myself up over there, found a space kind of in the shade, and I waited for her. There were people that had kind of come through, and one of the pictures I took was this little family that was there, just so I could get scale next to this thing that was so huge. I just wanted to be able to mark it somehow. So when everything else was in preparation and ready, she came over to see me and explain what was going to happen. She said, I'm going to have you lay across the bottom of this sculpture. And I want you to get in your mind whatever questions you want satisfied, put them into your intent before you go into your meditative session, and just get the questions you want answered. Well, I had 2. And if the truth about me and Thoth is true, I wanted to know that. And I had questions about the crystal skulls because they kept coming into my wherewithal for some reason. And there's a reason for that I'll learn. I had told both myself and her, look, if any of this is true, you show me one light being and I'll believe it all. I'll do whatever it is that you want me to do on this journey. You just provide me with the tools and I'm here at your disposal. That's what I think I was incarnated here for. Then she asked me for my phone. And she said, I'm going to take these pictures with your phone. So no one can ever say that they were sent to you from somewhere else. You'll always have them on this phone or in your cloud. No one will ever be able to say that these weren't authentic. And these will be for your portfolio. And at that time, I didn't know what the flip that meant. I learned later what it was going to mean. And when it came time for me to share my experience, tell my story, it wasn't going to be just telling stories like everyone else that's had extraordinary phenomenon. Here are the pictures to prove it. It's going to be compelling.
Yeah.
So I laid down, got in my meditative state, and she started to take the pictures that now you have seen. There were a lot of them. The first ones were beings, and not one showed up. There were 4 that were there. Through the sequence of those is when I physically could hear and feel them there. And I couldn't even put that together until after. These are all new experiences.
Yeah,
so
for you.
How is it when this has never happened to you? There's no catalog up here that I can go back to and say, remember what that was?
Right.
There wasn't anything like that.
Yeah.
So while I was in this state, I heard, first of all, lying on my back, right above me to my right, I could hear what I thought would have had to have been the biggest hummingbird on the planet, because it vibrated at such a rate that, that kind of, it was like that, but heavy, and it had vibration. Well, then it stopped. So I didn't know what to make of it. I thought, well, maybe it was a hummingbird, because, you see these things out here. I wasn't sure if it was a critter or not. Then it started over here on this side. And what became aware to me is that this isn't moving anywhere. If it was a critter, you would think that it would hover, because a hummingbird really doesn't stay stationary very long. He has to move, and this wasn't moving. And then it stopped again. Well, while I was sitting there puzzled by what all this was, it happened one more time right behind me. And this time when it did, I felt a sensation, like a chill or light, or however you want to characterize it, that went from here all the way through my system. And then I felt like I was lit. Now, it's 3:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday. I can only imagine what this looked like to others that were in the area, because it was fantastic from where I was. The pictures included not just these light beings interacting with me, and there was a physical exchange that took place. There were pictures that she took, the last 6 or 7 in the sequence. There was this green thing up here over the top. And she said, you know what that is, right?
Oh,
and I said,
I
no.
remember that.
She said, it's a ship spinning. as you went through, you could tell that this thing was turning in each one of the frames of the pictures that she took. Oh my God, there's a ship that's spinning over me. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
So there's my Saturday, right? As we were leaving, there was a woman that was sitting on a chair as we came into this space. There's kind of a circular drive right there, and she was wearing white, sitting in a chair. Well, I learned later she's been there to help Kuma before. Her husband is the caretaker for the property, and she's always been there to hold space for whatever's going on.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I left, she and her husband went over to talk to Kumu, and she said, "I really like to talk to Lowell." And Kumu said, "No, go right ahead." She goes, "No, I don't want to disturb." No, go talk to him. So on my way over, I got to meet them, and they were lovely people. I learned that her husband had like stage 3 cancer, and he was going through some things, although you never knew it from his demeanor. Well, I happened to have some other Andaras with me, and this guy needed to have one. So I left one with him at the end of the day, but she was the one who really hammered home these 3 instances of this sound vibrate, whatever this phenomenon was, she also heard it. She goes, "Yeah, it was 3 of them, wasn't it, Lowell?"
Oh.
I said, "Yes, it was. Thank you for validating that for me." Because I didn't know if I imagined that or whether it really happened. But as I was looking, when we were talking about it, I was looking around the area that we were in. There's no animals in this area. I didn't see a flying thing at all, nothing. This is all scrub brush and nothing else in between these 2 mountain ranges. That's what I was left with. And so I left. That was the end of that day. It wasn't going to be until later that any of this was going to start to sink in and I would understand what it meant. What they passed me was light that I carry and ignited. And when I say they gave me light, it's to transmute negative energy into light.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
the first carrier. I am not supposed to be the only one. I'm the first one. And whatever this ceremony was, after this point, when I got it, then it was going to be time for me to teach others how to do it as well.
How to do what?
Pass light, transmute negative energy into light the same way,
Okay.
and to awaken the light that's in you already.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
we'd have to go back and have conversations about this enhanced photon energy that's now coming our way, this cosmic phenomenon that's happening. We have moved out of, the precession of the equinoxes. We have found our way into the actual age of Aquarius. We're in that band of enhanced photon energy coming from Alcyon, our central sun. And it bathes everything in her solar system. So that all started to trigger about 2012. And so the people who had resonance with the idea that the shift was going to be in 2012, I think they sensed a frequency change, but it wasn't the shift. It was the beginning of this new cycle. And so it took about 4 years, about 2016, until our small entire solar system, the sun and all her planets, were now bathed in this belt. So for the next 2,000 years, here we are with more light energy coming our way. Everything is in a cosmic cycle, including our solar system, and we're all getting enhanced. So that light energy that's passing from Alcyon to our sun, then modulated and spread out through the rest of the planets around her, are all now being bathed by this new energy coming our way. It was one of the things that caused me to pay attention to all the solar phenomenon that happens, whether it's solar wind phenomenon that's having an impact on us or solar flares that are coming our way. It took me 2 years to really validate and understand that. So if you've paid attention to what's happened over the last week, here are just more indications to me that the shift is imminent, because when you see and realize that first, the planet's magnetic field around it has been deteriorating for a while now. It just tells me that the time for it to actually let loose and have this electromagnetic energy that's coming our way just finally hit the earth, it's going to be the thing that we refer to as the solar phenomenon. And it is what's responsible for Earth's consciousness rising to the next level. This is what it helps. But that same energy that's coming away bathes every sentient being on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can understand a little bit better that it wasn't that humanity and their ability to raise their consciousness wasn't going to come, because the majority of them can all kumbaya now, and that's what raised the Earth's consciousness. It's not that at all. Earth's consciousness has nothing to do with us. She's in a cycle. We will ascend if our vibration matches hers. And that's why when we talk so much about finding your alignment and raising your vibration, this is the reason why, the only reason why. Yes, I can tell you that when your vibration rises this high, that you'll be able to experience, like me, the things that are around us all the time, just in a different dimension that we're totally unaware of because our vibration is so low. When we can get broken out of this dense fog that we're in and reach into the next realm and see what that's like, it gets harder and harder for me to come back, because that's all you want to be.
Yeah. And I, like when Tracy and I were talking about, I don't know if it was with Tracy, but the idea was, the reason I saw that city in Bryce Canyon was because my vibration was high enough to see that city, but other people can't see it, but I can't.
Right. When you showed
was,
that to me, I totally got that. I resonated. And I've been to Bryce Canyon. I loved it. I happened to be there in the winter, so I got to see snow on it. But when you showed that to me, I totally got that. Here's an example of Elisa saw something that others would miss because she knows what to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So let's see. Time goes on. And as I got closer to this year's trip to Shasta, about a month before, I was starting to get some unsolicited messages from others, that people were giving messages saying, you need to reach out to Lowell and you need to give them this message. And after the first one, I thought it was a fluke. But when the third or fourth one came through, there's no way that I can connect the dots. How would I know what to ask for? Or how would I know what messages I'm getting answers for? I would have no idea of any of that. So here's where Cindy Yadayama comes into the picture.
Yeah.
Cindy, I had originally met late in the fall in 2020 after my original TELUS experience. And when the news got out and people wanted to have an opportunity to ask questions, I decided that I would set up some Zoom sessions for people that were interested. And the first one was a dear friend now, Lisa, and her husband, Donald. They live in Santa Fe. And after the session I had with Lisa, the next day, she had reached out to me again. And she said, I have a friend of Cindy that's staying with me for a few days. She just got here. And when I was telling her yesterday about our session together, she says she has a message for you. I said, okay. So we jump on a Zoom session the next day after that. And
is that the one that's on your channel? Is that one? Oh, okay. It's a different one. Okay.
This is before that, before I even thought of recording such.
Okay.
This was the first time. And so Lisa said, Lowell, this is Cindy. Cindy, this is Lowell. Have at it. Cindy began to speak to me in a language I didn't understand, and a lot of it, and at a pretty good clip. So when I got past the fact that I don't know what she's saying to me, and I didn't dismiss it anymore, it just kind of came to me that just listen to it and tuck it away. And maybe later you'll understand what this is about. So fast forward to 2 months ago, middle of June. Now, the entire month of June, Cindy's guides had also been reaching out to her and prodding her, saying, you need to get in touch with Lowell. And so she said, yeah, I'll do that. And she's also preparing not just to go to Shasta about the same time I'm going to, but she's getting prepared to go to Peru for a month, which was going to be like a month after the Shasta trip. 4 days before she was getting ready to actually leave for Shasta, her guides kind of etherically kicked her in the ass and said, you need to reach out to Lowell. She's yeah, okay, I'll do that. So that's when we jumped into the session that you've seen now, where Cindy began to speak this, I called it light language. She corrected me, and now I understand better that it's star language. But what I could tell about it, even the first time, as I was listening to her, I could tell these were different. There was different vibrations and different cadence to the things that she was saying.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem to me like these were, I don't know how to explain it, these didn't come from the same source. After I listened to that the third time, I could understand every one of those star languages and what they were saying to me. And as soon as I figured out I understood that, then I went back and opened up the Emerald tablets one more time. And that's when what gleaned out of there, because by now I understand dimensionality perfectly. I understand what it is. I buy into it. Now you understand what Thoth is trying to tell us, that we are all part of that same fabric. And when you're aware of those other dimensions, when he told us he's got keys that are hidden for us, when we're ready to find them,
Yes.
when we get to Egypt the next time and our vibration matches, guess what? We now carry the keys to get the information we've been looking for. So with that information in hand, then I went back to those pictures of those artifacts, right? Because symbols, codes, I want to see what those meant. I could understand the majority of what those codes were supposed to mean. And then I was on a hunt to find common things between them. And 2 out of those 3 ceremonial pipes had matching symbols, and neither one of these pipes came from the same place. When they were found, she had been given coordinates at different times where to find these things and sent people out on her behalf, telling them that you'll probably find some other artifacts, and I don't care what you do with those, but these, I need you to bring these back to me. And so when I found those same codes on 2 different pipes, oh my God, there's something else here that I'm supposed to understand. And there's clearly a connection between this and this. I don't know what it is yet, but I realize it's something. There's more that's being revealed to us in divine timing to prepare us for wherever we're going next. And when I get to hear this information, now again, it's my obligation to assemble the tribe. And here's what I've learned next, guys. And again, I've been told by my guides, I'm not going to be the only one. I'm the first one. And this year, when I decided, Rob wanted to do some different workshops. And so the hikes that he wanted us to do and the ones that we all did together, he had a different idea entirely about what he thought I would be doing. Like I'd be taking masses of people up there, like 30 or 40. Well, you know what it was like to get there yourself. There's nothing simple about it. It's not easy. You need to want this to get there, because it's going to tax you physically. When we kind of came upon a solution on, how to go about it, the right number seemed to be about 12. And, I was more concerned with taking that many people whose vibration might not all match that day. And it only takes one person to kind of drop your vibration for the group. And then the very thing that we went there to get, something's going to block it. And that was my concern. Well, about a week before, that's when my guides kicked me in the ass and said, Lowell, you just got to let it go. These people are going to find what they're supposed to find on their own. You're not the guide that's going to show them what to find. You're the one that's going to take them there. And when I kind of took that in, then I just hoped for the best for all of you when you got there. And I wasn't disappointed by anybody's stories when I heard about what happened with you and with Shayna and with Barry. Hello, Barry. That stuff was magnificent. And then Deba, had told us after the fact that she had run into a being and had sketched it in one of her books. And when she had shown it to me the next day, I'll be damned if that sketch didn't look like Alex to me.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
come to your own conclusions and draw your own dots. I was delighted, ecstatic that people got their own experiences out of it. And that was amazing.
Yeah,
What
it
I had
was.
hoped that they would get out of it. And in return, I get an energetic exchange out of it myself. And it was fabulous. My juice comes from when I find that somebody finally gets it, that either something I said triggered them, whether it was a word, phrase, whatever it was, and you see that little crick in their head, and the lights come on. That's what brings me joy. When I see somebody else is finally on the same frequency, and now it's just a matter of helping them get their alignment and help them understand how to get there. And then it's up to everybody else to just keep your frequency high. And when you do, look at what you get to see. Look what you get to experience.
And that's great, because this is a great question that Lady Hawk has, and she's been waiting patiently here. But what would you say is the most important thing for us to know? And what would be the most important thing for us to be doing at this time?
I've said this at the end of almost any one of these I've done. When someone says, "Is there any last thoughts that you have?" My last thoughts are always find your alignment. And if you don't really understand what that is, I was given information before any of this telos stuff ever happened called the Ascension Handbook. I put it on my website so that people would have a resource to understand how to get to the places we're talking about. It goes into great detail. It talks about what ascension is, talks about our physical bodies and how important your chakra unlocking is. And whatever is keeping your chakras from functioning properly is what's going to prevent your alignment from taking place. Because once they're all spinning the way that they're supposed to, now you've made your connection between Source and Gaia. And I like to refer to that, you've completed the rainbow bridge. So now my connection between here and as a light being, or as a light worker, it's my obligation to anchor light wherever I go. I can feel that now wherever I go, but I need to keep my vibration high. And I'd be lying if I didn't tell you there are days when my vibration drops like everybody else, and it sucks. It sucks when what I've experienced and how magnificent that is. It just gets harder and harder for me to come back. And I'll tell you, last fall, I'd gotten to the point where I'd had it with humanity. Look, if I can really ascend, then take me now. Well, my guides came back and said, that wasn't the deal you made, Lowell. You asked us to restore some of your abilities. You wanted to be able to bilocate. Now you know that you can do that. You wanted your empathic nature back. I want to levitate next and manipulate energy. Before I go further, I want to say something Kumu said to me the last day. She goes, I know that you can sense energy, but can you move it yet? And I said, what do you mean yet? She goes, oh yeah, you're going to be able to manipulate energy and move it any way that you wish. I said, well, I'm looking forward to that day. I'm not quite there yet, but I must be on my path. I need to take a break.
Okay. All right. So one more question before we go. And so from Song, do you believe you're a fractal of Thoth's consciousness or his whole consciousness? So what do you
don't
think
have
about
the
that?
answer to that yet. I believe me, since I returned from Shasta, this is something I've focused my attention on. Because even as you heard when I was talking with Yayama in that last thing, for me to think that I'm about to embody a God, that's way too big a thought for me to, I don't know how to ingest that. And so since then, look, Lowell, you asked for this information. And this is what you were interested in. This is what you were put here for. So you just need to surrender to the idea. And I've been trying to do that over time. And it's a process too. I heard from Cindy since then. Last Sunday, she was in Peru and had an opportunity to connect. She left me a voice message on Signal saying, I just got a message from Thoth, and he wants you to know that you're in a metamorphosis. That's it. He just wanted you to know that. I said, well, hell, I know that. Is there anything else he can tell me? So, it's just enlightening when I continue to get these unsolicited messages, because it wasn't like I reached out to Cindy and said, what can you tell me next?
Right.
It's never been like that.
Right. She's always reached out to you with the info. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I am going to have her as soon as she'll be back stateside in the next few days. And I'm going to do a podcast with her and just let everybody kind of get used to who Cindy is. And then, she's available for helping other people that are interested in pursuing star language. She's absolutely interested in helping others to do that too. And even she said when she was channeling these light beings, the star beings, last time that she was uttering these things to me, she had said that her guides said that since the last time she's gotten a lot better. So I had no frame of reference because I'm kind of a rookie at understanding this. But here's the thing. I understand it now. And how? Why? Because apparently Thoth carried that wisdom. When I went back to really understand who he was and every label he's been given, this guy is a God of wisdom. It's not that he was strong and powerful.
Yeah,
and
wisdom and knowledge.
Defeat his enemies.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that at all, and it never had to be that way.
Yeah.
This guy is the crux of all knowledge, the originator of every mystery school. This was Thoth, and the magic and the things that he knew, he handed down in this form. So the reason I called the podcast Starbuck's Mystery School is to take that same information that I'm understanding, and those people that resonate with it, it's time for you to understand. Because back in mystery schools, when you think of, those Greek scenes where Aristotle was there with a handful of students and, mentored a student, articulating these things person to person. Well, we have better technology than that today. And so the ability for us to find other tribes that resonate with this kind of message and this information, who also need to get it. Because again, I carry light the same way that you do. I'm helping you unwrap it. And so when we can do that together, the purpose of the first few podcasts I'm going to do were just to set the stage for the information that's coming. This foundation of information that you need to understand about thoughts are things, that dimensionality is a thing and it's real. Once you really take that in and embrace the idea, then the universe unlocks lots more for you. They'll dose you with what they think you're ready for, and when you indicate you're ready for some more, here it comes. I am convinced all of this is taking place because we need these tools in place in order for our vibrations to match for the time that everyone's consciousness rises.
Yeah.
I see the earth as this, like a bubble passing through a membrane. And down here below the membrane is old 3D earth, and above it is new earth and her new rendition. And as we pass through this membrane, in order for you to get through, your vibration has to match what's on the other side. So now, if you kind of see it that way, here's a polite way of looking at all those people who don't vibrate. They just kind of fall off the planet. There's no 3D earth left for them to occupy. And they certainly didn't vibrate well enough to go to new earth. And it's not that that's a good or bad thing. If we understand the idea of incarnations and past lives, that means that they're not done learning their 3D lessons. They'll find another place in the galaxy to play them out, but it won't be here because Earth is on to the next thing. Never mind that the entire galaxy was watching this experiment always. And those of us that get through it are going to be of great value elsewhere because there are other places going through similar things, and our expertise is going to be valuable down the road. Not just me, but the rest of you that are listening on the other side of the screen who resonate with this as well. And now we're finding each other to compare notes. Tell me what you've learned. I'll share what I've learned. Here's where the collective comes together. This is why I ache leaving the next dimension. Here's where everybody understands the law of one. Everybody understands they're connected to one another, and everything comes from a foundation of love. It's hard to leave that and come back to this mess if you pay attention to all the white noise around us. That's the challenge, is to kind of tune that out and focus on what's going on inside of you. And even those that are awakened, I'm not any different than everybody else. I have those moments when I just drop back into 3D world when I'm around it too much. When I'm up in Shasta, I'm untouched by any of it. You can just go out and no one bothers you. The only thing you're going to experience there is magic. And then you come back here to traffic and congestion and oh my God, it's the same white noise that I can't tune out. No wonder I like going out there where it's quiet.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm having a hard time. Ever since I got back, I've been struggling that I need to go back. But I know that if I went back, it's such a small town. I'd get tired of the same restaurants. I get, so I'm figuring out how to go back, but not, like live there kind of thing. So
I think it's a good place to kind of tag up, and over time that it's wonderful for that. But here's what I'm going to share with you that I began to tell you about that Friday night session where we went to this pyramid. And these 3 people from Miami came here because they had shared with her that they wanted to figure out a way that in southern Miami, in that area where there's lots of Haitian, Cuban, voodoo that's just come over.
Oh, Santeria.
That whole area has just been, there's dark energy that's kind of hanging over it. Well, when Kumu said, you realize that when you brought your intent here to dump it on the mountain, that's what you're doing. You're not asking me to transmute negative energy into light. You want to dump your trash here. And so as I kind of understood that perspective, and I had seen Shasta now 2 years. The year before in July, there was still snow on the mountain. Last year when I was there wasn't any snow at all. And it almost looked like, oh my God, she's just in pain because whatever snow cap we used to be on her wasn't there last year.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to, when the idea was suggested that I can transmute negative energy into light.
Yeah.
And that, well, let me finish with these 3 people. That's when the light came on for them too. And Kuma said, your work isn't here. Your work is going back to South Miami, and that's where the work needs to take place. So by the end of that evening session, they were making plans for Kumu to go back to Florida, Southern Florida with them to do that process there. Don't bring it somewhere else expecting something's going to happen here in Shasta. And that's why when I say light workers don't go there looking for something from the mountain, we go there for an energy exchange. I leave something behind as much as something that I received from her. But when you understand that, you get it. So last year when I returned and I heard that I had that ability, I had gone up one night on my own and I was going to stargaze, right? It's beautiful up there. And so when I was setting my chair out on that kind of overlook, right before you get to Bunny Flats, that wide open area, I had parked the car. There wasn't anybody else around me. And so I thought, I have the ability to transmute negative energy into light. And I can see that the mountain would benefit from someone that can help her clear it. So if there's something within my space, within my energy space, that I can help transmute some of that, tell me what I can do. The next moment, were you there the day that Lori kind of froze up?
No.
She froze up when we were in one of the ceremonies and couldn't move her legs. They had just locked it.
Oh, yeah. I was the one who told her how to, I was the one who came to her and I told her
Yes,
how
honey.
to, yeah.
My whole
yeah.
body did that. My whole body did that. It was like I had a cramp, but it was body wide. And it was so intense, it was getting painful. I couldn't move my legs to get close to the car to even lean up against it. And it took me a good 5 or 6 minutes to be able to do that. And all
Oh
I
my
wanted
God.
to do was roll myself back to the back of the car because I'd left the hatch open. I just wanted to get off my feet. Holy cow, I had taken one for the team and I didn't really realize what it was.
Wow.
I thought at first when it was the sensation in my leg that I was getting a chill, because I normally bundle up when I sit under the stars out there because it can get a little chilly, especially if there's a little breeze, it'll go through you. I thought that's what it was until my whole being was like locked from this spasm I was going through. Yeah.
Wow.
If I transmuted that energy for you, you're welcome. But holy cow, I took one for the team that night.
Wow.
And I'm very careful about what I do that now because in this little physicality, these carbon forms, I don't know that we were made for that.
No. Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Well, we were not able to talk about the emerald tablets, so we'll have to come back and have people talk about it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share the what we were talking about, which is this right here, translated by Dr. Dorrell and edited by Jordan David River. What I'll do is I'm going to see if I can drop that off in the description of this video, so people can have time to look at it. And if they have any questions, then the next time around we can like really talk about the tablets themselves.
Yeah, look, if you don't have a copy of it already and you're interested in the topic, you need to get a copy, and that's the one to have. Yeah. I really resonated with it. Jordan did a really good job, but it's lengthy and there's a lot to it. So I would suggest that you go through it, and it'll be more meaningful when we get to go through it. It's a lot. Every chapter has a lot in it.
Yes.
And in order to really understand it and to understand when we talk about Thoth and what happened in Egypt, there are many people that think that that's where he began. That's not where he began. He was an Atlantean king before that.
Yes.
And so I just want to make sure everybody is on the same page and we understand, given what we have been given to read and understand, that that's where I got the information from. And again, it took me 5 passes to get through it and understand it. But now that I do, when you start to read about the 7 lords, here's the most vivid place I can tell you what I understand of it. That there are 9 dimensions that are represented here on our planet. And every one of them has a little council. Each council has a lord that oversees it. So when they talk about those lords 3 through 9, that's who they are. They're the lords of that dimension, the 3rd dimension, the 4th dimension, the 5th dimension. They're here overseeing us and readying us for the time that we understand what Thoth is telling us and how we connect with them. Because once we get to 5th dimensional awareness, we're not limited to stay there. You're a light being now, and you're ready to move on. Your body's crystalline in fashion. But if you choose to advance to 6th and 7th dimension, because inner Earth and what Earth was to begin with was a 7th dimensional construct. We're trying to get back there. Not from this 3rd dimensional realm we think we're in to move to 5th dimensional. Earth was 7th dimensional, and we want to get back there for all those things that we have at our disposal.
So definitely, if you guys have or can have the time, definitely read it. It's 63 pages and the font's pretty big, so it's not too bad to go through it. It's just 63 pages.
The content is dense. It's not the number of words.
It's the content. I had to read each sentence like several times to like go, okay, I think I get that one, you know? So yeah, it's the content that makes it, you know, more harder to read. Okay, so Lowell, thank you so much for your time.
I apologize because I wish I could have paid attention to the people that were uh, putting comments in here. And I would love to be able to look at them and respond for those people that might want to have other questions for me. I hope that they all know they can reach out to me anytime anyway, and I will respond.
Beautiful, beautiful.
But I like to do it in these sessions. And I like interactivity. I really
Yes.
want people to be able to ask questions so
Yep.
that they can get their things resolved.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So there were only those two questions. In the future, if there's more, I'll bring them up. But for today, those were the two questions that we had. But for the next time, we're going to have more questions. I'll show you how to read the comments.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I
So,
can see them here, but I'm so busy concentrating on you that I tried to ignore that so I could just stay on
yeah,
task.
absolutely. Stay on task. Absolutely. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for coming, for being here and being part of the discussion. Lowell, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we will see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.